welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria. If you watch this video and you enjoy it, please don't be shy, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissist abuse, and narcissistic abuse recovery. Today we are going to be getting into the topic of emotional flashbacks that are stemming from narcissistic abuse. So I am going to start off by explaining something that some people who go through prolonged narcissistic abuse develop, which is CPTSD. You may have heard of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. So what that is you have an isolated incident and you have a flashback. Well, your flashback is going to take you back to that isolated incident, which is a visual incident. Okay, something that you saw. With CPTSD from prolonged narcissistic abuse, that is complex post-traumatic stress. So that means that you did have a traumatic experience. However, this traumatic experience was linked to a prolonged amount of time from the narcissistic abuse. So this abuse is going to be emotional. So it's not something we see, it's something we feel. With emotional flashbacks, this is going to be one of the signs of CPTSD, but it is only one of the signs, so we're going to get into that today. When we have an emotional flashback, what happens in the brain? Well, basically what happens is we see something, we feel something, we are in the same situation. For instance, if as a child we went through narcissistic abuse, we are now an adult and we are in a relationship with somebody who we are starting to notice is narcissistic. All right, so we are in a situation with them and they do something or they provoke a feeling in us that makes us feel as if we were back in that time when we were a child. What this does is it brings up and provokes the feelings in us as if that time when we are a child is now in the present. So our brain can no longer differentiate the past from the present. And that is what an emotional flashback is. So it's going to, what do we have to do when we get one of these emotional flashbacks? Well, first of all, we want to be aware. So this is what I suggest. When you have an emotional flashback, you're not necessarily going to know that's what it is because you're not visually seeing something, you're feeling something. So a lot of these feelings can be interchanged for you thinking that you're feeling depression, you're feeling anxiety, and these are just normal things that can come along with everyday life or with a mental illness or something like that, but you are not aware that it is an emotional flashback. Once you start understanding and educating yourself on what emotional flashbacks are, you can take those feelings that you develop, that you feel when you're in them, and jot them down. Really, journaling is going to be great throughout the journey of healing regardless, but maybe purchasing a journal and writing down the different feelings that are associated with your emotional flashbacks. When you do this and you have something on paper, what you're doing is you're training your brain to understand that this is something that you felt in the past. We're no longer there, so there's no need to carry these thoughts into the future. They also train your brain to think, okay, that's that thought. I remember when I had that before. This is an emotional flashback. This is not something that's happening in the present. So what we want to do is bring our mind back to the present. And like I said in some of my other videos, there are many tools to do this. Diaphragmatic breathing, okay? Mindful meditation. We can go on a walk, smell the flowers, see things in nature. Anything that's going to bring you back to the present. So now you have two tools. You're able to journal, write down and organize your thoughts and your feelings so that you're able to see the next time, this is how I felt the last time. Maybe this is an emotional flashback. And then when you do end up having emotional flashbacks, because this isn't magic, right? This takes a lot of work and a lot of practice to reprogram the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is the body. You feel things in the body. But when you do go into an emotional flashback, you have some tools to bring you back into the present. So we have something that we call priming. So priming is something that you're going to provoke the feelings that you want to have ahead of time. So you are teaching your body to feel something ahead of when you feel it. So, like I said, this takes a lot of work, but in journaling, it would be a great tool for you next to where you're writing down, these are all the things that happen to me. These are the things that I feel during emotional flashbacks. And when I feel them, give yourself a priming statement and provoke a feeling inside of you that is going to eventually pave the way for your subconscious mind to go down once you feel those feelings from the emotional flashbacks. So it gives your mind somewhere else to travel than to ruminate and go through these compulsive thoughts over and over again. The subconscious mind is trained to do things that keep it safe. So keeping it safe would basically be the same thing over and over that you've always done. When we are retraining our subconscious mind to go down different avenues, healthier avenues for us, these are things that we need to do over and over and over again until the pathway, think of sledding down a hill. You're going to go slow at first before the path is actually the snow is hard, right? But once the path is paved out, you seem to go faster and faster and faster, and you stay on that one track. So when we can change the way our subconscious mind, change the thoughts that we are provoking by priming, by getting our mind ready for those types of things and provoking positive thoughts in us ahead of time, this reprograms our subconscious mind. So just so you understand, when we do have an emotional flashback, what is happening is we have two sides of our brain. We have the left side of our brain, which has to do with logic, and we have the right side of our brain that has to do with emotions. During an emotional flashback, the left side of our brain is completely shut down, which is the logical side, and the emotional right side of the brain is illuminated, and it is rearing and ready to go. So when we have a flashback, we are not thinking logically, we are thinking with our emotions. That's why we need these sorts of tools to bring ourselves back to the present and to understand that we are not in immediate danger. These are things that happened to us in the past, and we have a brighter future ahead. It is really important to know what sort of things trigger you. Where are these emotional flashbacks coming from? Write a list of them. What are the feelings the emotional flashbacks trigger in you, and what are your reactions to them? Write that down. What do you want your life to look like? Write that down. And what is the path? What do you want to prime yourself to think the next time you have emotional flashbacks? Write that down. You are going to recognize the feelings now that are going to provoke emotional flashbacks. We are going to be ready the next time we have an emotional flashback. And one last thing I want to leave you with is, when we do have emotional flashbacks, we tend to go into one of the 4 trauma responses. So remember, I have another video on the 4 trauma responses, but that is the fight response, the flight response, the freeze response, and the FAWN response. So after watching my previous video on the 4 trauma responses, you can kind of tell which one you tend to use. That's also something to look out for. When you start noticing yourself getting angry, you start acting out of anger towards other people and towards yourself, just know that this may be you responding to an emotional flashback, and this is something that you now have tools to uncover, okay? But I highly suggest journaling in this because it's hard to retrain your brain. Sometimes it's easier to visually see what is happening. Well, I want to thank you so much today for taking time for this video on emotional flashbacks. If you have any other questions or you have any tips for anyone else that may be reading the comments who are also going through them, please leave a comment below in the comment section. Subscribe and like my channel for future videos. I am brand new, but we have lots of content to go over. I am here to support you. Let me know if there are other videos I can make for you to help you in your healing journey from narcissistic abuse. All right, guys, I hope you have a beautiful day, and I wish you all the love in the world.